picked the Gunsalus Pinot, it was very early in the harvest, so I didn't have a lot of other fermentations to attend to. But the day would start off with the alarm clock going off with me looking up in disbelief that the sleeping time was so short. I get up, have some coffee, drive to the winery, check any fermentations that might be in place, and just make sure that they're doing what they ought to be doing. Then before I headed out to Gunsalus Vineyard, I make sure that the bins that on my truck or trailer are tied down, that everything is appropriate. Have some more coffee, and then wait for other people who are coming to assemble to go out and harvest the grapes and get everything set up so that we can go out there as soon as it's light to be able to start picking grapes, because we would really like to get them in before they heat up very much. There are many places that harvest at night, and in this particular instance we don't. But there are other places at night you might start instead of at first light, which might be 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 to 6:30 that time of year. They may start harvesting at 2 in the morning or even 1 in the morning. So in the morning the picking crew actually showed up at the winery so that we could all go in caravan to the vineyard. It's a small vineyard that's difficult to find, and since the harvesting crew it doesn't normally work at that vineyard, we pretty much guided them to the vineyard. So we met in the dark, everybody showed up, we crammed as many people into as few cars as possible and caravanned over there. I followed along with my pickup and my trailer and bins, and so we got everybody out there to harvest, and they got oriented, and they did their morning stretches, etc., and then went to work. In the meantime then I backed my trailer into this tiny space, got it backed up in an appropriate spot so that we could dump the grapes into the larger bins that I bring to the winery. So then we ferried the grapes on a small ATV back and forth in the small lug boxes so that we could then transfer them to the bins that I'd actually take to the winery. And that's my morning exercise. The guidelines they follow is to pick the ripe fruit and to not pick leaves, and if leaves do fall into the picking pan, to remove them, and to actually remove them as soon as they fall, because some of these leaves are still green and pliable. Some of them are yellowing and beginning to senesce or finish their life cycle, and some of them actually have somewhat dried, and they're kind of crunchy, dried up leaves. And if those fall onto the mass of grapes that are in the picking pan, and you throw other grapes on top of them, they end up crunching them up into little pieces, and you've got these tiny little dusty pieces of grape or grape leaf that are very difficult, if not impossible, to remove. And so you get enough of that into there, it actually can bring kind of a tea-like element to the Pinot Noir. And since Pinot Noir is so transparent to everything that's in it, it isn't Pinot Noir, that may not be something you want to have in there. And one of the other important things to look out for is, well, any of the grapes you don't want to get in there. That could be underripe grapes that may possibly still be hanging out there. Rotten grapes, in many vintages that's really significant. In others it's much less significant. And possibly sunburn fruit. Fruit that's overexposed and harvested during or after a very uncharacteristically hot period. So those are what the harvesters are looking for. And it's amazing how fast they can move and actually accomplish this all at once. We actually left the end vines to ripen for a few more days, because the end vines for some reason tend to ripen after the ones in the middle. There's less competition in the root zone perhaps. Well, I'm sure there is. But that's I think the reason that the end vines tend to ripen a little bit later. And in this case, since we're ripening kind of on the earlier side of my strike zone for Pinot Noir, I don't want to have grapes that are outside of that. So we left them on the vines for a few more days, and came back, and actually the vineyard owners themselves harvested those vines and brought them to me.